Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl called Cinderella, and she had two ugly stepsisters who were very unkind and made her do all the hard work. She had to sweep the floors, cook the food, and wash the dirty dishes, while they dressed up in fine clothes and went to lots of parties. One day, a special invitation arrived at Cinderella's house. It was from the royal palace. The king's only son, who was truly handsome, Prince was going to have a grand ball, and the three girls were invited to come. Cinderella knew she wouldn't be allowed to go to the ball, but the ugly sisters, oh, they were excited. They couldn't talk about anything else. When the day of the ball came, they made such a fuss. Poor Cinderella had to rush about upstairs and downstairs. She fixed the hair and the fancy waves and curls. Here they are getting dressed. Look at Cinderella. She helped them put on their expensive new dresses, and she arranged their jewels just so. As soon as they had gone, Cinderella sat down by the fire and she said, "I do wish I could go to the ball." The next moment, standing beside her, was a lovely old lady with a silver wand in her hand. "Cinderella," she said, "I am your fairy godmother, and you shall go to the ball. But first you must go into the garden and pick a golden pumpkin. Then bring me 6 mice from the mouse traps, a whiskered rat from the rat trap, and 6 lizards. You'll find the lizards behind the watering can." So Cinderella fetched a golden pumpkin, 6 gray mice, a whiskered rat, and 6 lizards. The fairy godmother touched them with her wand, and the pumpkin became a golden coach. The mice became 6 gray horses, the rat became a coachman with a most enormous mustache, and the lizards became 6 footmen dressed in green and yellow. Notice all the magic happening. Then the fairy godmother touched Cinderella with the wand, and her old dress became a golden dress sparkling with jewels, while on her feet were the prettiest pair of glass slippers ever seen. "Remember," said the fairy godmother, "you must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12, because at midnight the magic ends." "Thank you, kind fairy godmother," said Cinderella, and she climbed into the coach. When Cinderella arrived at the ball, she looked so beautiful that everyone wondered who she was, even the ugly sisters. The prince, of course, asked her to dance with him, and they danced all evening. He would not dance with anyone else. Now, Cinderella was enjoying the ball so much that she forgot about her fairy godmother's warning until it was almost midnight and the clock began to strike. 1, 2, 3. She hurried out of the ballroom. 4, 5, 6. As she ran down the palace steps, one of her glass slippers fell off. 7, 8, 9. She ran on toward the golden coach. 10, 11, 12. Then there was Cinderella in her old dress. A golden pumpkin lay at her feet, and scampering off down the road were 6 gray mice, a whiskered rat, 6 green lizards. So Cinderella had to walk home, and by the time the ugly sisters returned, she was sitting quietly by the fire. Now, when Cinderella ran from the palace, the prince tried to follow her, and he found the glass slipper. He said, "I shall marry the beautiful girl whose foot fits this slipper, and only her." In the meantime, the prince went from house to house with the glass slipper, and every young lady tried to squeeze her foot into it, but it didn't fit any of them. At last the prince came to Cinderella's house. First, one ugly sister tried to squish her foot into the slipper, but her foot was too wide and fat. Then the other ugly sister tried, but her foot was too long and thin. "Please," said Cinderella, "let me try." "The slipper won't fit you," said the ugly sisters. "You didn't go to the ball." But Cinderella slipped her foot into the glass slipper, and it fit perfectly. The next moment, standing beside her, was the fairy godmother. She touched Cinderella with the wand, and there she was in the golden dress sparkling with jewels, and on her feet was the prettiest pair of glass slippers ever seen. The ugly sisters were so surprised that for once they couldn't think of anything to say. But the prince knew what to say. He asked Cinderella to marry him. And then there was a happy wedding. Everyone who had gone to the ball was invited, even the ugly sisters. There was wonderful food and lots of music and dancing, and the prince, of course, danced every dance with Cinderella. He would not dance with anyone else. And they lived happily ever after.